How's it going, everybody? I'm here with Ariana Ortega, and today we are doing our first podcast for InView Media. So for those that don't know what this company is, it is a real estate photography, videography business that handles everything that has to do with photos and videos for agents. We also do somewhat marketing videos for agents. We are kind of transitioning within media sections as far as like what we're going to plan on doing. That's what we're going to be talking about today, as far as like how we got started, and of course, what our plans are for the future.
Yeah. So InView Media, I came in like around the beginning of you kind of starting the company back in 2019, I believe.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we're in 2022 now. You know, how has that been for you? You started this company, it's been about 3 years.
Yes.
There's a pandemic in the middle of it.
Right. Yeah, we all got scared. Ariana, I can't pay you no more.
I know, that was like, because everything was shutting down.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, dude, like what we do, we go into people's houses and like, are we still going to be able to do that? Like, you know, like,
Yeah, so we'll kind of bring up that little topic in a little bit. So I do want to transition from the beginning as far as like how we got started. So it kind of got started off of me wanting to do headshots for a realtor. My drummer's dad at the time, which was August Augusto, he allowed me to do his headshots at KW. He told me make flyers, do the photos for free as far as like the photo shoot, then pay or ask the realtor to pay you for the edit if they are going to want the headshot. From there, I was introduced to Hadia Rafay. Hadia Rafay is a lender at KW, or a section of KW that they have a lender office around there. Mm-hmm. She asked me if I did videos. I said yes. She showed me an example. I said yes. I was honestly just wanting just to get the chance.
So how, like at that point, were you really comfortable with video as well, or were you kind of transitioning to doing videography too?
Just
in general.
Yeah. So in general, I was already doing video and photo, but I'm self-taught. So when it comes down to the technical stuff, I was literally just kind of going off of the flow as far as like whatever type of video I was kind of going to do, or whatever project I was going to do, I was learning out of the fly, or just going on YouTube and just like, hey, how do you mix a lavalier mic, or where do you put this, and all the lighting?
How do you create a video?
Yeah, exactly. I'm not gonna lie, I was a little scared as far as like my first couple of videos that I did for that company. But the videos that she had showed me weren't really that great to begin with.
I guess even at that time, were like video walkthroughs for real estate, was that really a thing?
So for the lender company, it wasn't really real estate related yet. It was testimonial videos that she had business with the realtors. So she would do the lending side for the realtors, and she wanted just testimonials from the realtors as far as like how the transactions happen, the flow of how everything worked with the company.
So this is prior to even getting into doing real estate
correct
videos.
Yeah, from there, I got to know a couple of realtors. Of course, me being I do look a lot younger than I technically am. A lot of the realtors just kind of felt, they didn't really feel like they had to approach me in any kind of way, as far as like I wasn't going in there with a tie or anything. So I was just literally just approachable for everybody.
Yeah.
From there, one of the realtors did see me outside, Sam Shamoon. He asked me if I did real estate photography, and I said no. He gave me the opportunity to go do his house. I told him I never had done it, but I'm willing to go give it a shot. Luckily, they were just okay. I'm not gonna lie, they weren't the greatest photos. If I were to go back and look at those photos, I would probably be disgusted, but I was given the opportunity. He allowed me to have that opportunity, which I'm very grateful for. And then from there, he just printed out some flyers, put them in the office. A couple of agents saw them. Then those agents were asking as far as like who was the photographer.
So that kind of opened the doorway for you getting
into the real estate realm of real estate photography and videography. And like I said, I'm not schooled in photography or videography. It was really just out of whim, and then just
like
trial and error.
As kind of a hobby.
From the beginning, yes, it was 1000% a hobby, because my background is music. So music, and then going into photography was just another means of being creative without me having to touch the guitar, because I was kind of getting burned out from just playing music all the time. It's not that I was disliking what I was doing. It's just the means of me doing it repetitively. I needed something else to focus on.
Rock star life.
All right. I was a teacher and I wasn't cool. But I did play in a band, but it was, I never felt like I was in that, that realm of
that lifestyle or whatever.
Yeah, I'm a very reserved person. So I never really fell in to that genre of like lifestyle or even the
Party,
look, right?
And,
I was like very reserved. I don't like being around people. So I'm like, after a show, I was like, I'll leave. I'm like, all right, I'm done.
I'll leave.
So
no fan pictures. Leave me alone.
Right. So from the first few houses, like I said, it was my first trial as far as like being in real estate photography. From there, I think I did a couple real estate walkthrough videos, which once again, I didn't know what they were back, I'm going to say even 3 years ago or 4 years ago. They weren't very pronounced as far as being popular. There was a couple of companies out in LA or in the Valley that were doing them, but even those videos that I was seeing on YouTube, they weren't that great. So as far as examples, there was nothing to kind of guide me towards.
Would you say like at the time, like real estate videos or something that were done more so with maybe luxury listings, like people who were willing to put that money into photos and video, because that's an extra
1,000%. And even with the photo section back then, it was mostly known to be used for more of a luxurious house or a higher end house. When I was doing the houses out here, it was known that they were doing it, but it wasn't as popular as it is now. Now it's common.
Yeah.
Now
everyone
exactly.
does it. Like
now it's one of those things that they
it's a
have to do it. Yeah, it's a standard, of course. So going from there, I did get hired as an assistant from Jenny Maceriegos, and I know I'm kind of announcing these names out loud. And the only reason I'm saying their names out loud is because they allowed me to get into positions that I needed to get into to where technically where we're at now. And this is my way of saying thank you to all of these people, because it is a good amount of people, like a good list of people that I know if it weren't for those opportunities, even if they weren't the ones that were giving me those projects, they at least allowed me in the door so that I could then get into the positions that we're in now. So from working with Jenny Maceriegos, she's an agent at KW, I worked with her for 3 weeks as an assistant. So she had me send comps to her agent or to her clients. I got to understand what MLS is, which that's where I started to notice the actual photos that were published back then before
so
me.
You were working like not even doing like photos, videos.
Yeah.
It was just assisting her.
Yeah, I was assisting her, and she asked me if I knew how to speak Spanish, if I knew how to write Spanish. So
you know how to speak Spanish?
Yes, I do.
I don't.
Now we know.
A little bit. Poquito.
Yeah, so from me actually having seen the photos that were being sent out to clients, I was then able to actually notice mistakes from photographers as far as like what they were doing and the things that I know I wouldn't have done or would have liked to have seen. And that also gave me the confidence as far as like when the first agent approached me to do a house, I'm like, I can't do any worse than whatever I'm seeing. Because back then, like we said already, it wasn't a standard of actually photographers being hired. It was more of the agent doing it themselves. So you would actually see the agent, taking it with their cell phone.
Like
yeah, you would see the reflection. So it was very it was very common to see that. So for me, I'm like, okay, if I'm gonna do it, I know I'm not gonna be in that reflection because I know how to Photoshop already. So once again, thank you for Jenny for allowing me to be at KW, and then of course allowing myself to be in that office so that then I could roam around, and of course getting to know all the agents
and build up the rapport with people.
Yeah. So from working for Jenny, I then quit, or it just, for me, it was just the office thing wasn't for me either. It was, I'm going to say 3 weeks I was with her, or 4 weeks. Luckily I'm going to say I got lucky, but then also took everything really seriously as far as like when someone did approach me for this new realm of photography, videography that I was literally not even thinking about doing. I took it seriously because there was income that I was actually making. So anytime anybody gave me some sort of income, even back then it was really cheap, I took it very, very seriously as far as like, okay, someone has actually given me some sort of income base. So let me at least do what I can to, deliver. From there, like I said, from doing the first house, I started getting approached from other agents, from those agents, from Cindy Linder to Kathy Behar. Then I got to know Rami and then Rima, of course. I then started getting established within that office. And then from that office, I got established within the AV from other offices.
You start building your experience with the photos and the videos and
Yeah. So from just that, I'm going to say from that month, which was May, all the way up to, I'm going to say December to the end of that year, I started maybe with 5 agents in May, and then it just kind of
grew.
It just grew out of proportion where I didn't understand what it was. It just was what it was. And I was like willing to just sacrifice all my time to it. And because I was doing it on a daily, it was almost like a practice habit for me to actually just go in there. And then because I was also doing the edits, I was seeing my mistakes too. So of course that same night I was editing the photos or video.
Yeah, you're doing every step of the process. So you're taking the photos, video and going home, editing everything, and then sending them out. So from starting with the agent all the way up until delivering that product to them, you were doing all of it.
Yeah, sending invoices, getting their calls, text messages, everything. Like I said, from me doing everything as far as like from scratch, it allowed me to build.
Yeah, and at this time you're also doing other aspects of photography and videography.
Yeah,
right?
So I was still doing a couple testimonials for that lender office. So as far as like getting to understand how to direct a person, when it comes to dialogue, that was another thing that I know I got experience from doing it. Understanding that sometimes their terminology is a lot bigger and it's harder for the common person to understand what they're trying to actually spew out. So I would break it down for them like, hey, if you could explain it to me, then it would make sense for the person that's actually trying to understand what you're trying to say or trying to sell. But that came like little by little confidence, because I did see them as being the business and then I was just the kid,
So then at what point did you go from like, okay, I'm getting a lot of people who want photos, videos for real estate. At what point did the idea of starting a business for it happen?
I think I got approached a couple times by other people as far as like if I was gonna grow my business just because of how busy I was already. So they were already putting it into my head as like, okay, you have a good amount of clientele. Maybe you should build a team so that you could delegate certain things as far as like you can make a bigger income base.
Have help.
Delegate, your editing or get other photographers because there were agents that now were waiting a week so that they could actually schedule me into their listing. And like I said, I got lucky that back then it wasn't as popular, when it comes to this realm of photography. So they were willing because they didn't have the option of going to another company and saying, hey, my photographer's too busy. Could you take care of my house tomorrow or the following day?
Or even having to outsource to LA, right? Because I think you said that there were already like people doing it in LA. And so I guess prior to you even doing it, I'm sure some agents out here were probably hiring people from LA.
Yeah.
To come out.
Yeah. But the inconvenience of that was they were charging them the travel fee. And then of course they were wanting multiple houses within one day because they wanted to make sure that the travel that they were coming down here was going to be worth their time. At the time, they weren't even charging that much. I remember one time, I think it was either Rami told me that he was paying some guy $50, so they had to I was like, not just for photo video. I think it's just for photo. It was like, so they would try to bundle a couple listings within that day with other agents.
Make it worth their time coming all like that hour drive up here.
Exactly. Yeah. So, but once again, their quality wasn't that great. And that's another thing that I do remember, that every photographer that was already doing it before me, they weren't taking it as seriously. Once again, the standard of what the quality that we now set wasn't there yet. They were just going in there without a tripod, without speed lights, without the actual understanding of how to make a room bigger. They were just kind of going in there like
Just like pointing and shooting.
pointing and shooting,
Yeah.
going in there in and out. Drone photography wasn't popular yet. If people did have a drone, it was overwhelmingly very expensive. So not a lot of people actually got that for every listing. Since I was already doing weddings prior to what I've already spoken about, I had a drone, and of course I already had my gimbal. So I had experience for the video section. So once I transitioned to video, it was easier for me to actually know how to walk with the gimbal and know how to actually fly a drone. It was more of like how to connect the dots as far as like how could a person view this house where they're not getting anxiety and all that stuff. So looking back at my videos, they weren't that great.
Yeah, I know. We like we went through that not that long ago.
Yeah,
We
as examples of what not to do.
your video, and I remember even like when you were like bringing me on, and you're like, "Hey, look, these like showing me examples," and I was like, "Whoa!"
Yeah.
And like now, when we look back at them, I look back at like even videos I did last year, and I'm just like, "Whoa." Like I've gotten so much better at editing, or like, just that process of doing it every day over and over. You just notice every little mistake, or you start to like work on like little finer details that maybe in the beginning you're not so concerned about, because it's like you're worried about the big picture, but like now that you have that big picture in place and you have like a system in place and people that are helping you, it's like you can focus on the smaller details and the little things and like perfect it and like make it like the best quality.
Yeah. And once again, because I was teaching myself, I was doing more than what I should when it came down to actually shooting the video and actually shooting the photos as well. And I was taking way too long, which I understood longevity wise, it wasn't going to work out. And then of course, when it came to the editing, I wanted to be overwhelmingly flashy. So my videos came out like music videos.
Which, like girls dancing in the background, flashing.
Yeah, but once again, the standard of what we're doing now, it's not. It wasn't.
It was so new that it's just like there was nothing really to compare.
Yeah, it was no standard as
so
far
it's
as
like you're kind of just learning as you're going.
Yeah, and then I started understanding. I'm like, okay, even what I'm looking at doesn't even look good. Like after a couple of weeks, I'm like, well, why would I do this to this house? They didn't make sense. Like putting a fast hip hop beat or whatever, insert like a small little house in Little Rock. It just didn't make sense.
Like goats in the background.
So I started to understand transitions when it came down to actually moving with the cameras, and of course learning how to actually put proper music, and then of course putting the titles. So it was very trial and error, but once again, I got in the position where they gave me the opportunity to keep doing it, even if it wasn't that great, or even when I would do mistakes, as far as like I would write down the wrong address sometimes, they would let me know. And it was like one of those things like, okay, I have to remember these things because it's very important.
Yeah.
But due to all of that, I was able to then hone what I was doing. So once you came in, I understood what I was doing, and I had sectioned it, because once again, going back, I was doing too much in the beginning because I wanted to be the guy, that everybody knew. So I thought I needed to over deliver as far as like within the product. But once I started doing 3-4 houses a day and I was editing, it takes
up a lot of time.
A lot of time, exactly. And because I'm very specific and like on certain things, I know what I was trying to do was going to take a good amount of time. And of course, I had to deliver a 24-hour turnaround, which is really quick. Yeah. So I was all day shooting. In between, I was going home or going to Starbucks and editing, going to the next listing, doing the same thing every single day. Once again, you came in and then already had some sort of system, because I understood that going to a house, I needed to just get certain sections of a house, certain sections of the exterior, certain things of the drone, and of course then almost like pasting it together where it's not even a thought process anymore. So when you came in, I'm like, okay, this is how I'm doing it. If it's a 2-story house, I'm going to start at the bottom, then I'm going to shoot the stairs, and then that's how you're going to know that I'm going to go upstairs. So it was already a system that I had in my head where it was already calculated. Now that we have a team, that's how I'm kind of approaching everything. I'm like, first you want to do this, if you're going to do, if you're double teaming it, or there's a photographer and videographer, you have to split it. If it's too small, someone has to start outside with the drone and then just finish off the outside. So once a person's done with a certain section of the house, we know that we're not going to collide with each other.
Yeah, you're not in each other's way.
Yeah, and of course it's a lot easier to set systems so that it makes everyone's life easier. So the photographer makes the editor's life easier because he has to shoot it correctly, and then of course the videographer will make your life easier because he's shooting it the way that you already gotten used to.
Yeah,
me shooting it. Trial and error though, as far as like, once again, I'm very grateful for all those agents in the beginning that gave me those opportunities and allowed me to make the mistakes and allowed me to make their Little Rock houses into music videos. I honestly, they come up on my Facebook and I'll laugh myself as far as like,
really?
I was like, it's like the zooming in and the speed ramps. I'm like, what is going on? It's weird because now the speed ramps, I'm now noticing on the reels, they're similar to what I was doing before, as like one whole take thing.
Oh, yeah.
I was doing that in the beginning.
Yeah, I was thinking about that the other day too. I was like, we used to do a lot more. Like I was thinking about like your videos when you were first bringing me in to edit, and you had some of like the old houses that you shot, and you had me go through that footage. There were like those long takes where you go from like the living room to the bedroom to the other bedroom, and then like so it was just like one long, And I was thinking about that. I was like, we don't really do too many those long takes.
Yeah, anymore. Now that we are getting more busier, it's harder because we have photographers in there when I'm doing the video, or we have the Matterport when I'm in there. So it's harder for us to actually go and do one long take of a video, unless we want to take our time and just wait for the photographer or the Matterport to finish, and then we'll go and do it. Like I said, it's now a thing on Instagram Reels where the videographers go and take one whole take.
It's all one whole thing.
Yeah, but I do remember when I first started, I started doing that because, once again, it wasn't it wasn't even my vision to do one take. It was more just so I could edit quicker.
For ease.
Yeah, it was literally so I could
so
edit
you could get it done, and then
just because I was trying to figure out how could I have one take if it's just living room, kitchen, going into maybe a bedroom, and then now I know that with one take I could just drop it into the timeline and then adding everything else. But because I am picky, I don't like doing it either, because exposure and white balance, as far as like going into different sections of rooms, and of course bathrooms are yellow.
Yeah.
And then of course when you're in window sections in living rooms, you have a lot of natural light. So
bathrooms always have that lighting that I'm just like, oh my god.
Yeah, it's just very disgusting.
It's just like I feel like you don't really notice it in like real life, but like on camera, the bathroom lighting is always just so like, oh my gosh, it's just such a headache to have to like color correct everything and like make sure it like looks.
Yeah, and especially when they actually paint the walls orange
like different colors,
or yellow, and it makes it even harder because you're trying to even go make it more blue, but it turns into green.
You get like that green tint.
So but that's kind of where I started from, as far as like why the reasons, as far as like how I was doing things were more for me to go home and be able to finish off a house within a couple of like maybe an hour to 40 minutes. And I started to understand that now companies are coming up, as far as like now they're developing the same system that we're doing. I know one of the companies tried to hire me in the past, like I'm going to say 2 years ago, or maybe I'm going to say in the beginning of InView Media, but they didn't understand that I was the actual owner of the InView Media. So once again, I look approachable because I don't tend to wear anything luxurious, as far as like who I am as a person. Very simple.
You're not blinged out.
Yeah, I'm not wearing a tie. So they did contact me and they asked me if I wanted to go out for lunch. And of course it's free lunch. So I'm like, yeah, sure. Why not?
Yes.
Why not? Of course they kind of gave me the whole spiel as far as like what they were trying to do, what their plans on, what they were trying to grow. And I was kind of listening from the talks, and from what I was questioning, they kind of understood later throughout the conversation that they're like, oh, this is not an employee, this is the employer, and we're just spilling the beans. So I didn't say anything. They announced it later on. They're like, oh, we won't step on your shoes if we don't step on ours, and the understanding of like, don't come towards our clients and we won't come towards your clients, which is fine.
Yeah.
And now there's more companies popping out in the AV once again, due to popularity of consistency of like the income,
The demand,
of course. And of course, like you said, COVID, or like you said in the beginning, you had mentioned COVID. We didn't know what was going to happen. I had just started InView Media. I got nervous.
We all got nervous, yeah.
Not because of the virus.
I wasn't even like, we weren't even scared of like, okay, yeah, we get it. But it was more so like, what's going to happen with the company? Because, yeah, like you mentioned, we were just starting out.
Yeah.
And we were kind of like gaining more traction.
Yeah.
And like, I feel like we were getting like that system in place where everything was like, okay, yeah.
Yeah, it was
and then all of a sudden it was just like,
shut down
2
exactly.
weeks. And I'm like, wait, okay. And then it's like, extend it.
Yeah.
And extend it. And I'm like, what's happening?
Yeah, I remember when they did announce the stay-at-home order or whatever they did. I got a call from, I think it was the photographer that we had prior, and he was in the fear of like getting sick, and then because we didn't know at the time as far as like what it was.
Yeah.
So he was a little bit more hesitant to actually going out and stuff. So I told him like, okay, just take your time. You don't have to do anything that you don't want to, but we have to kind of take you off, I can't pay you for, not
if
doing
you're not
anything.
working. Yeah.
And of course I had to call you, and it was more fear from my end because I had just started something not knowing where it was going to head towards.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to make sure that you were taken care of when it came to income. But if I kept giving you a good sum of money without actually projects coming in, I was going to go broke eventually.
Yeah. And I mean, at that time too, I also had another job. Like I was working.
I do remember that.
So there, like I was making money, but like that's the editing and all that. I was like, what's going to happen with that? Like are we still going to do it? Is the company going to like be, like because we didn't know, like, and then it went from being 2 weeks to like a month, and then like there was no like date, like end date, and it was just getting worse, and people started panicking, so I think for me it was like, what's gonna happen with the company? We're all putting time and effort into this
and resources,
and there, like, that was a concern for me too, like the company.
Yeah.
Like, what are we gonna do? Like, of course, money, but I think outside of that, my bigger concern was the company. Yeah,
1000%. Mine wasn't really the company as far as like the entity of the company. I'm in a position where I knew I had savings, so I would be fine. But because I had grabbed a group of people that trusted me, that was my concern at the end of the day. It was more of like, okay, they're expecting me to do something, and I am being looked at as like the solution to this problem. So I need to figure it out. And of course, I then had to call you and then say like, hey, let's do everything project-based, just in case things do slow down. And then of course, then I'll extend the amount of income that I did have saved up, just in case there was a month that we didn't have anything. I could still pay you something, but I won't go broke that month as far as like giving you a good amount of money. It was a blessing in disguise as far as like for InView Media. I'm not going to say COVID was a good thing for the economy. It wasn't a good thing for the world in general, but it was a blessing for us because it brought us into a position where we were now a necessity. Agents were not allowed to do open houses. Agents were not allowed to do certain things that they were normally allowed to do as far as marketing, the actual listing. They weren't allowed to go do door knocking because, face to face, they had to stay inside. So all the agents that were accustomed to not doing photos now were calling us. So we were now a necessity for them to actually keep doing the work that they needed to get done so that they could actually have income for themselves. And of course, like our photographer, he didn't want to go out because, he didn't want to get exposed to this virus that we didn't know.
He was like, apprehensive about the
Yeah,
situation.
and there was a lot
he
of
has a family.
yeah,
so,
exactly.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of photographers out here and also out in the valley that were in the same mindset. I'm a little bit more hard-headed.
Irvin was like, la la la, I'm just gonna go.
I was just skipping down the street like la 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 la. I was like, "Where's everybody?" I was with
It's
my
like
jump rope.
empty, like
I was like,
nobody's out, and everyone's just like, la, la, la,
like
la,
where's
with his camera.
where are my friends?
I know, it was crazy because I think initially, it did slow down a little bit because everyone was like stop what they were doing, so there was a little slowdown, and then like you said, it like picked back up, and then more like then some, like there was like
it just all of a sudden it just went through the roof for us as far
and
as
I
like,
was not expecting that.
yeah, nobody was expecting that, but it was just the chance that I had to take too, as far as like taking the risk of actually, okay, I'm gonna go out and get these houses done. A lot of people were hesitant even when I started going to these houses. I didn't know how they were going to react. Some people were a little bit more lenient. Other people were like, spray your shoes with Lysol and make sure you did it. So they had a whole system for me.
You guys were going in with like, you had the mask,
gloves.
You had the shoe covers, you had gloves, like, because it wasn't just about like your safety, but also the people
safety.
living there. Like, and of course you always want to respect like their level of comfort and what they want and they don't want. So I'm sure that in itself was a little bit of a challenge, like going in and, every house is probably different, every individual.
Yeah. And it is a process that I wouldn't go back to, because when the masks were very annoying, especially in the summers, you're just sweating and you're just breathing your hot breath.
You have the gloves on, and
all you could feel is your breath going back to your face. Ew. And I'm like, it wasn't a good thing. And of course the booties that we had to wear, we would have to actually put them on, take them off like when we would do the exteriors. Yeah. And then putting them back on. And it was like, it's a longer process that was just tedious. I understood what it was as far as like why we were doing it, but it was just annoying in general. Like
it was just something added on top of like everything you already have to do, the heat in the summer, and also like just even going into someone's house, sometimes I feel like they can feel a little like
discomfort of just having somebody in the house, and you feel it too, their energy, like they don't want they're there.
COVID into that, and it just puts more pressure, like more anxiety, and no, I agree. I like don't want to deal with that. Like even though I was at home and I was editing.
Yeah, the easy part. You're in the AC unit. I was out in the heat.
I would hear like all your guys'
getting darker.
Like the masks in the heat. I can't even.
Yeah, it was bad. I remember the first day after the call that I had with the photographer, because I did have a shoot with another company out in the AV, not the AV, the Valley.
Thinking about his stories.
He was, I remember him telling me not to go because, the general senses of what was going on. We didn't really know what the pandemic was. We didn't know what was happening. We didn't know how people were going to react. We didn't know if we were going to get a ticket if we went outside. It was literally just a hit and miss as far as like what society was actually going through.
Risking it all.
Yeah, I was literally just risking it all. Another company hit me up from the Valley, letting me know, I'm like, hey, our videographer does not want to go out and shoot. And it was that same day that they announced a stay-at-home order. Literally that same day, I went to LA and took the job of that videographer because he didn't want to go out. It was the shoot was outside. So one, I knew I wasn't going to put myself in a position where I could risk too much. I knew that there was the standard of distance, and I'm not going to hug anybody. I'm not going to shake hands anymore. That whole idea, I understood the risk, but I was also trying to mitigate the risks too, as far as like what I was going to do. Once again, my idea was I need to keep this going, not because of the entity of the name InView Media. It's because now I am looked at as a solution, as a company. I need to bring in income, not just for myself, but for the people that are allowing me to grow this. So from there, we did get more projects from the Valley because once again, we got the jobs that other people didn't want. Of course, it's the Mexican that gets the job.
Stealing people's jobs.
All the time.
No, I do remember that. Yeah, you were telling me how their videographer didn't want to like didn't feel comfortable. So for the time being, you were going and you were
taking over his
you
projects.
like took his place and were doing that, and then I was editing those videos, and that was fun. Like it was a nice break from like the video walkthroughs.
Yeah.
Like, oh, we got something a little different.
Yeah, and it was a good little gigs that we were getting, and because we were now putting you on project based, it was now like, oh, here's an extra of this, and then it started adding up little by little. Once I started noticing that we were gaining momentum again, and I started looking at the margins as far as like the monthly net. I am like, oh, we are not losing. We're technically gaining. Yes, I am working every day by myself, but we're not losing. So
how long was that where you were? Because I remember there was a while where, our other photographer, he wasn't comfortable with it, so he did stay at home. How long was it that you were by yourself?
So pandemic was in March, I believe, the second week of March. Yeah, because
April?
No, it was March because I did run the marathon prior.
Towards the end of March, yeah.
The pandemic or the stay-home order.
Yeah.
That was in March.
Like mid-March.
Yeah, the mid-March, I would say. And then he came back the ends of May, I believe. Okay. But it was just like, a house a day, like it wasn't a consistency. Luckily we did have an intern at the time that was somewhat helping me out, and I don't want to name names because he's no longer in the team, unfortunately, but he did give me a hand as far as like certain things. Like when we had Matterport, he would come out and do the Matterport side. I had to take that section, which for me, I'm not a big fan of the Matterport. It's just a button that we push. I love the
Matterport. I love it. Like, I mean, yeah, it's a little tedious, and I think, but once you get kind of like the flow of it going, it's just like.
Yeah, but when you're doing photo, video, and drone,
well, I guess,
and then you're
when you
going
have all that stuff, the Matterport is just like this. Annoying,
another
like,
section.
Takes so long.
And it's like another hour of your time.
Especially if it's a like big house.
Yeah. I do remember doing like something within 3,000 square feet, and I did everything. It was like a 3.5 hour to 4 hour process, almost a whole day. In my head, I'm like, this sucks. Like, like this can't happen.
Yeah.
But like I said, we kind of saw it through the time because it was a necessity. I wasn't willing to just stop because it was uncomfortable for me. It was a necessity because once again, from the beginning, if people give you the opportunity for you to grow regardless if it's a business or in yourself, take it seriously because those opportunities don't come daily. Like I come from a background where opportunities don't ever arrive, where if you see something, take it seriously to the point where even if they don't see the standard of quality of work that you're trying to put into it, allow yourself to see it for yourself and process it. Keep growing yourself as a person, and then your quality of what product you're trying to deliver will actually show it too. And of course, people recognize it as well. But I'm just saying, those that don't recognize it, you'll see it in the work that you're trying to do.
I think that's definitely true. And you can even tell from an individual, like the people, regardless of whatever stage they're at, beginner, amateur, like professional, you can see people who are really taking it seriously and putting in the effort and care about the quality of their work, even if they're barely starting out. Like they're those people who really take that initiative, and every opportunity they get, they take it, or they, go out and ask, what can I do to help? Like, what's going on? I'm here. I have these days available, and they just put themselves out there. And I think that's really important in this field of work because you got to go out there and you got to get it. Yeah,
you have to actually be determined to understand that whatever it is that you're trying to do as far as like a hobby that you love, understand that you're going to understand that you need to love how to hate it, because you're going to learn how to hate it at some point. You're going to hate it because it's repetitive. It's so repetitive, but love it so much that understand that there's going to be a point where you're going to hate it, but that passion that you have from the beginning, you have to carry that out. But you have to understand you are going to hate it at some point, because consistency as far as like what you're doing on a daily, especially at that time, because I was doing it every day by myself in the summer, it was brutal.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm like, okay, this is what it is, but I love it more than I hate it at this point, you know?
And I think even in those moments where you are frustrated or like, oh, I got to do this again, like again, it's the same thing over and over. I think it's in those moments where you start to perfect the craft and really look at every little detail of what you're doing. And it's like, okay, what can I make better instead of just doing the same thing over and over?
Yeah.
Like, how can I make this faster? Like you were saying, the process, like creating a process for yourself. And okay, now we have this process going, but you know, I'm doing video, photo, Matterport. It's taking me a long time. How can I make this faster? Okay, let me bring someone in to do Matterport. Let me, you know, bring someone in to do photo. Let's split the house. So like finding the little niches and like everything to perfect what you're doing. I think it's in those moments of like, kind of like where you're just like feeling that it's repetitive and feeling that it's like, like I'm doing this again. It's the same thing over and over. I think it's in those moments that you start to find like it really tests, like you're saying, tests your passion for it and the love of it.
1000%, yeah.
Because if you're not 100% in it and if you're not really truly wanting to do it, you're going to break. Like it's going to break people. And we've seen that. We've seen people who, you know, they like photography, they enjoy doing it, but this is too much for them.
Yeah.
Or it's just different.
Yeah.
It's not what they want to do.
Yeah. I feel like everybody kind of sees what we do as what they visualize as being as a fantasy, you know, like, oh, they hold a camera or they, you know, it's cool because they do videos, you know, so they don't see the behind the scenes as far as like, it is heavy, you know, it gets hot, you know, we're sweating, we're cold, it's windy.
It's windy, especially out here. The wind is like, it doesn't care.
Yeah.
The
And then
drone, I see your guys' drone.
Yeah.
It's just like a little fly in the air, just getting,
Yeah. So there's a lot of aspects that I know that the photographers that come in here with this high expectation of just having a great time, I
guess they think it's going to be easy, right?
Yeah, we have had the experience as far as like they've literally within a month or two or even 3 months, they've realized that like, hey, this is work, you know,
It's a lot of grinding. Yeah.
Yeah. And of course, once again, the standards that I've held up for this company, I've made sure that they have the same viewpoint. You know, when they go into a house, they approach the client or the realtor or the tenant and, you know, announce themselves. So we have a system in place where it's not only just shooting the house, but actually approaching the person and actually now leaving the house, you know, like turning off the lights, making sure that it's locked, making sure the shutters are off. If we move the trash bins, put them back. So it's just certain things that photographers and videographers that come into the team don't realize that we do because all they see is the end product. And of course, the realtors that have recognized our work ethic appreciate it. And I feel like that's why they've been loyal and consistent to keep using us, because we have that mentality of like, if there's certain things that need to be moved, we will move it. It's not our job to move things for the realtor or for the client, but it's our product too. If I feel like I can't post a picture because I was too lazy to move a trash bin or too lazy to move a cup, then why would I give it to the client? If I'm not proud of it, why would I then be proud of it to deliver to anybody else?
And I think that's also an initiative as a photographer, like on the professional side of it, that you're going in looking at like, how do I make the most of this space? And, you know, someone can come in and just, you know, take the picture and not care. And it's like, okay, we come in, oh, there's some trash cans on the side, let's move them. There's this like weird thing right here, let's move it. Like the dog house or the dog kennel, let's move that out of the way just for this shot, you know? And, you know, I've been there on some of the listings where we move the trash cans, we move like the dog's water bowl, you know, we've moved like pieces of furniture in other rooms so we can do that room and then move it back. Yeah. So it is a lot of work. And I, like you said, I don't think that people
realize it,
see that.
Yeah, exactly.
Obviously they don't.
And I'm pretty sure at some point when we get a certain amount of people where I could document a lot of the things that go behind the scenes, we will kind of show it so that then not only the client could kind of view what is necessarily to get done before we get there, but it's also educate the realtor that's coming in as far as like barely graduating and getting their license to understand there is a system in place that we have set. The artists and the creative are now setting the narrative as far as standards, as far as like how they should now prepare their listing. And unfortunately there's nothing as far as like what we are doing. It is new. So there isn't information out there that is in the mass that they could actually just Google and say like, what should I do for my first listing? Da, 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 da. Or who should I call and what should I ask for? And what does it come with drone? Does it not come with matter?
I think that's part of like another aspect of InView Media that we're really trying to get behind is like, okay, how do we educate not just the photographers we're bringing in, but the agents that are coming in? Because we do have agents who have been, who have been doing it for 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. And even then, like photography and videography is newer. So for them, it's a learning process as well. But like all the new agents coming in who, these are like their first listings and they're not really sure what to expect. Like we want to be able to guide them and provide that for them. And I think even in some instances, you still have to have that creative eye, that photographer's eye, and go in and maybe even say like, oh, you know what, this piece of furniture is in the way, let's move it, and like take that initiative while you're there. So that it's more than just going in and shooting things. It's like you're going in and looking at a space and seeing how you can make the space, look the best.
1000%. Like I said, we got, and I'm like proud and grateful for all the opportunities that we got throughout the last 2 years. This year would be our third year, I believe, right?
Yeah, going into our third year.
Yeah. So as far as like the growth of the company, it kind of just grew where we had to. The plan was to do these tutorial videos and behind the scenes stuff, but when you're doing 4, 6 houses, sometimes 8 houses in the summer, there's no where
It's just finding the time to do it is really hard because it's like our team started off pretty small and we're starting to expand it and get more people, but definitely finding that time to create those things is tough because we're putting so much work and time into the photos, the videos, the editing, and then it's like, okay, like we got to find the time for that, but we don't have the time for it because it's like we have listing after listing after listing after listing every single day. Exactly.
And it's a daily thing. It's not something that we have a weekend off or 2 days or randomly a Friday off. There's always a listing that comes up regardless if it's the summer, the winter. I think we did initially, for the first time in InView Media history, we did take a week off on purpose at the end of, I think it was the end of December.
End of the year,
Yeah, so that was my first time that I technically did take a week off as far as like not going and shooting a house, but because now we have this space as far as like this office and the studio that we're growing, I was in here, and of course we were bringing in new people in, so I was in here with them doing the training, doing the, like explaining as far as like what we do when it comes to flashes, when it comes to tripod. And it's just a lot of time that was taken regardless if I was doing a house or not. So now that we do have people in, it is now being delegated more towards them. And hopefully we keep getting the people that we want so that it's the consistency of standards that we have developed continues. That way I could step away from it a little bit as far as like not having to go do a house and now just be the behind the scenes videographer and then start creating this content that we initially had in our heads from the beginning. Like this podcast, we kind of initially spoke about this maybe a couple months ago, like it was it's been a minute, but because of the timing and because of the process and because of the growth and the people that we have to come in and develop their, the way that they have to do certain things for us and communicate and, go shoot the houses. It never came to fruition just because of timing. But now that, like I said, now that we're delegating more of the work to the photographers now because they're doing what is necessary to go and they feel comfortable shooting a house now, communicating with you, communicating with me, just in case certain things happen. I feel comfortable not having to be there. Where this year we had three interns. One didn't make it, two made it. Right now, he didn't make it to that, right?
Yeah, I remember even in December, kind of like when things slow down, we're like, okay, December is slower, January is slower. We'll be able to create content, shoot stuff. We'll have time to do it. And then it's like January came and it was like, nope, we're busy. And on top of that, you're training the interns that we have to do the real estate stuff. So it's just finding the time for it was so hard.
Yeah.
And now I feel like we're kind of getting to a place where, okay, I think you're going to start to be able to step away.
Yeah.
Gradually.
Gradually.
Slowly.
Yeah. So what we're doing right now, as far as with the studio space, we are creating small content for realtors. We have done a couple, some, not voiceovers, just a bio video for one of the agents out here. Actually we did two already. And then
we posted one on our Instagram.
Yeah, on our Instagram, yeah. And then of course I've been doing a bunch of headshots. Last week we did 12 headshots. Yeah. And then I think it's almost a blessing in disguise for us, because due to the amount of work that we do, we've always been able to walk into certain situations where people already recognize us because of the amount of work that we do on a daily, that they now allow us to now navigate other realms of marketing. They don't know us through headshot photography, but because of the quality of work that we've already delivered through the video section and through the photo section of the houses, they right away already respect and also allow us to just take that into our hands and say, yes, we could do it for you, and just come in. We haven't even announced this officially, the studio. We haven't really announced it. We haven't marketed this studio. It's kind of hidden within the AV, but yet people are coming in because they're calling us. They could Google our address now.
We're on Google.
Yeah, but we haven't officially gone through.
We haven't actually because I remember we even talked about okay, we're going to announce the studio, everything's going to be so much exciting stuff's going on. And then it's okay, everything just got busy, and it's we haven't actually announced that we have a studio space.
Yeah, but like I said, it is a blessing in disguise because we are growing naturally. I would rather grow naturally than having to buy into the market that we're going into. It's due to the amount of people that we have already established.
We have, and they trust us, and they when they tell us the photos look great, video looks great, awesome job, thank you. I never get tired of hearing that. I'm just oh, they like it.
Yeah.
Yay,
and I've actually heard compliments as far as when it comes to the agents, man, I could definitely see the difference between when I first started using it and then how you are now giving what you are giving now. And it is the growth of everybody that's in the team. It's just not me. It's you too. You came in not knowing how to do real estate walkthrough videos. I walked you through how to do it step by step. And I take chances on people.
Asleep, trying to edit, No, yeah, it was a thing where I think you said it took you, you had gotten it down to a 2 hour, about 2 hour process, depending on
the square footage of the house.
Yeah, it was an hour to 2 hours. And I think in the beginning I was 2 hours. I'm sitting here 4 hours trying to do this. And you're yeah, just keep track of how long it's taking you. That way, you know that you're getting faster at it. And then I was just when am I going to get down to 2 hours?
Right.
and then when I got to that place, it was oh, this is awesome. And then you started shooting in C-Log, right? Everything was in log and
D-Log.
So now it's okay, now I got to start doing the color grading too. Where, before it was I was color grading the drone stuff, and then the stuff from the gimbal, all of that was I do a little stuff here and there, but it's now I'm full on color grading everything. And I look back at that stuff and I'm just oh man. Ugh. And now I'm okay, I'm getting way better at it, but it's just I can see my growth from then until now.
Oh, and I see it 1000% as far as the way that I've grown, it's almost like you're already in my head. When I see your edits, I'm like, that's exactly what I was thinking. Like literally that's exactly what I was thinking now. Like you now
funny.
have the vision of as far as like what I'm doing. And hopefully I could develop the same vision as far as like my eye and my vision for each listing when it comes to the next videographers that are coming up. They are developing their own system. I don't want them to copy exactly what I'm doing. I want them to develop their own techniques and allow them to grow as a creative as well. And then also so that I could kind of get inspired through their growth too.
Yeah.
As far as like their vision, I want to grow with them as well.
Yeah. And I see that. Like I see, like, you know, you put the steps in place and I can see how like the process, like they are like following like that framework of like how you go in and you shoot. But I do like that there's still a creative and they're still looking at it a little differently, and I'm getting things different from them than what I would get from you. Like if you went in and you shot that house, you know, I'm like, okay, this is the way Irvin would have done it. And then they're going in and they're shooting it and it's different. And it just like, I feel like it's a nice challenge for me to just start editing something from someone else's perspective and like get into like their head. And it's like, okay, like what are they looking at when they're going in here? Like, what are they envisioning? Like, how can I make what they're shooting like come to life in like this video?
Yeah.
And so that's been like a fun process, and I think it's kind of like lit a fire for me again, whereas like before I was kind of like another edit, like now I'm like, okay, like this is like a different challenge to take on, like learning how to color grade like Sony footage, learning, you know, because everything was kind of like Canon before, and like really getting into doing Sony, or like, you know, they have a different type of drone. So like just going in and being able to like learn that stuff has been a challenge. And sometimes I do get like frustrated, like why isn't this working? Like why can't I get it to look as good? But like even a month ago looking at stuff to now, I'm like, okay, like I'm getting like a lot better. So it's been really, really fun too.
Yeah, and I've recognized definitely your development as far as like what your growth is. I've kind of been really lenient as far as like people that come in, because I do want them to develop a certain eye for themselves, but there is a limit as far as like how much leniency I'm willing to give out.
Yeah.
I know I was more lenient in the beginning as far as like the people that were in the team. Now more so as far as the people that are in the team, as far as when it comes to creativity, I'm not talking about standard of work. I'm talking about leniency of being creative. When you came in, I noticed your mistakes in the beginning because I was already established as far as like what I wanted. But I knew that if I kept telling you like, hey, maybe if you would have used this angle, if you would have done this, it would have given you just my voice in your head. But I wanted you to see your mistakes so you could now see it beforehand so that you won't repeat that same mistake. Yeah, every now and then I'll say, hey, maybe could you stabilize this little section a little bit more because I do see a little bit wobbly. But other than that, I know for sure, once again, it was a gamble as far as like me bringing in new people to actually teach them what we wanted or what I wanted. And then hopefully they stayed and grew with the team. So development for creative is a lot different than development for a business. It's just a different feel of terminology, different feel of how they kind of go and about you telling them what they're doing wrong, because it is art, it is creative. It's harder for them to take that criticism.
It can be taken pretty personally. Yeah. It's a tough subject to like even now, I think like I'm kind of learning how to approach it and like, you know, figure out the best way to like tell them like, oh, could you do this or maybe not do that. So it's something like, it's for me definitely a work in progress, like learning how to do that and do it in a way where it's not like they're not feeling like I'm being like mean about it, you know, because it's not even like me being mean. It's just like I can't even use this, or it's not, you know.
Yeah, it's just out of respect, you know, for the company and for, you know, it's literally for the clients too. You know, you can't have a photographer, a videographer keep repeating the same mistake, because we are getting paid good money and they are getting paid good money. So please respect the craft that we've developed and just do better. And that's it. We aren't screaming at them. We're not putting it on social media like, hey, this guy did this and never use them again. He's fired.
Oh my gosh.
We're not doing any of that stuff. It's very, it's approachable as far as like how we're learning as a creative, we're learning as a business. I know I've had to develop certain traits as far as within myself to actually keep going, because it's something that I never saw myself doing. I never thought I was going to be a business for myself. I knew it was
Business owner,
business owner. For me, I'm like, this is completely out of my realm of like comfort, having to navigate certain people as far as like not only the business people, but also navigate a team and manage their team, because everybody has emotions. Everybody has, things that come up, get sick, car issues, that kind of stuff. So I needed to understand situations will happen and how am I going to go and approach those situations. And I've made mistakes in the past. I've learned from the mistakes from the past as far as like how to approach and how to go about and solve these problems, but it's experience, the experience as far as how we're growing, it's literally just life experience. There's no teacher for us to go and say, hey, maybe what should we have done or what could we do just in case. It's more off of when the situation happens, we either do it correctly or we don't. And if we don't, let's try to do it better the next time.
Yeah.
So hopefully those that have maybe had a bad experience with us, I'm pretty sure it's a very small minimum amount of people, but I know we've probably made or have made comments or maybe said something without trying to say it in a certain way, regardless if it was creative or a business or a client or whomever. It was not because we were trying to be ill will towards that situation. It was just, we are developing a company.
It's just like, new situation that, you hadn't really had to navigate before. And, you learn from that. And, there's never any ill will behind anything we do. But, it's just, I think it's just part of the process of growing and learning and working with people. Like, you're not 100% going to always have everyone happy with you all the time.
Exactly. It's just life experience as far as like what we're doing. Like I said, I'm grateful for the people that are in the team now. I feel like the team is now getting stronger. I feel like now we are now navigating to get to do other stuff. Hopefully, if it continues, we do have another intern that just came into the company. He's actually schooled in photography, so he actually understands the terminologies that I'm kind of spewing at him, and of course, just he has a vision of like he's developed his eye because he went to school as far as like when it comes to composition. I don't have to explain it too much because he kind of already understands that stuff. It's a form of standards, but once again, I am not schooled, so it's harder for me to teach things that someone didn't explain to me. I just did it because it looked good to me. That's basically how I would explain it. Like, just shoot it on this one because it looks nice.
It looks better.
Yeah, but of course I had to develop terminology as far as like why I was doing it. And then of course I was then teaching myself of the reasonings why I continued doing that, whatever I was trying to do. But when it comes to him, it's just different because he is schooled. So hopefully he does stick around. He is a very, very extremely smart person as far as like when it comes to his craft. So I do see a future with him as far as like being in the team. So like I said, it is getting stronger now. We are now we have Israel. We now have Jordan and the new intern, which is Aaron. Like once again, he is now being brought up to be a photographer. And then of course we are now wanting to get another editor, which is Israel's brother, Isaac.
Isaac,
yeah. So Isaac and Israel are brothers. Hopefully, they don't collide when it comes to
family beef.
Right? I don't want to edit
Oh my goodness.
Israel's stuff. No, I don't think it'll go that way. But
No.
yeah, I don't think so either. But yeah, now the team is getting stronger. We've developed certain systems. We are developing a package as far as like how to actually do tutorials and how to bring in new people without having me go through this long process
like a training
of like
system, kind of like a training process.
Yeah, we are trying to develop certain things. So I am not involved as much on a daily because getting these guys up to where they're at now literally took us 3 months. The internship is 3 months where it was explained to them, it is an internship. It is not paid. You are doing this because you are learning. You want to learn. There's potential income if you learn what I'm trying to teach you with the standards that I'm trying to teach you at. Luckily they stayed, and luckily they are keeping those standards, you know.
Yeah,
So
they're great. They're amazing.
Yeah, and from 3 months to where they're at now, it took me 4 years or to actually understand what I taught them within those 3 months. Yeah. So I know they understand that, and I know they're grateful for the opportunity and the opportunity that they're now in the team. Hopefully we do keep growing the team.
And I mean, I see their progress, like, you know, the way I see the progress in myself, it's like from a month ago to now, you know, from when you threw them out and like, go my babies, fly from the nest, you know, like seeing them when they first started kind of doing listings on their own, you know, like I talked to them after, like, you know, like, so how do you feel about it? And like hearing them like, oh, I was a little nervous, to like now it's like, I feel like they're like, they know what they're doing. They're going in, they feel comfortable, and, you know, they're doing well. They're doing really good.
Yeah. And I do want to say thank you to the realtors that are using us as far as like currently, and are allowing us to, you know, bring in a new photographer and videographer to their listings. I know certain realtors are still a little hesitant when it comes to these new upcoming photographer, videographers. They are still waiting for me to just not be, you know, busy, which is never. So it's almost a hit and miss for them as far as like when they call me or they text me, they want to say, hey,
they want you to do it.
Exactly. They just, hey, we want you, we don't want anybody else. And I will literally tell them like, hey, I'm not available until the following week. If it's really up to you if you want to wait that long. I know your house needs to go out at a certain time because it's not up to you. Technically it's up to the client. Some of them do wait still, but most of them are now giving us those opportunities where now we have the opportunity to send out a photographer, videographer, so that they could develop their craft as they go along. Now, of course, within the 3 month span, they were with me at listings. So it's not like they don't recognize them. It's not like they haven't seen them before.
It's just, it's kind of one of those things where you get used to the quality of work, right? Like you were mentioning the quality of work, and they're comfortable with you. And it's like now, even though they see this person, they've seen them at the listings with you, they know you're training them. I think there's still that like little bit of hesitation, like, you know, it's not Irvin though. But like you said, I'm starting to see like they're the agents who are just like, yeah, that's fine. Like I'll use them, which is amazing. And like you said, thank you for that, because it's really given them a chance to grow too, and prove that they're, you know, they're the quality of work that they
just
do
as
is
capable.
just as good as you. And, you know, when I see these or I don't see them, but when they, you know, tell me like, oh, the photos look amazing. The, you know, the video looks good. And it wasn't you that shot it. I'm just like, thank you. You know, like
exactly.
it's great to hear that. You know, when I'll relay that to like Jordan and Israel and say like, oh, the agent loved the videos. The agent loved the photos. Like everything looked great, you know, but I think it's just sometimes a level of comfort. Like they're just comfortable with you.
Yeah. I think because they kind of
just like,
the agents that are still trying their best not to let me go as far as like that commitment, as far as like they want to see me at their listing. It's more off of development of friendship too.
Yeah.
It is nice to see these people, and I will always be friends with these realtors as far as like, because they came up with me, they saw me grow from scratch. So it's almost like a form of, they like that I'm there because we are not, when I get there, I can multitask. I know what I'm doing without thinking anymore. So they know that if they speak to me or they're talking to me about the weekly whatever or the market that's this, they like that because now there's an interaction for them. It's entertainment for them because it's no longer work for them.
It's like hanging out with a friend. Like
and I feel like that's what it is.
Fun.
Yeah,
like
I think that's what it is.
They're not kind of sitting there like awkward or, you know, can I talk to them? Am I going to distract them? Yeah. Yeah,
but I feel like that's mostly the idea. What I think it is, it's just the level of just comfort as far as like they recognize my face, they recognize my attitude, they recognize my sense of humor, the conversation that I'm going to give to them. They like that stuff as far as like me being the photographer, videographer, getting the work done, but also being the friend that they want to hang out with, because I know that they work just as hard as we do
Yeah.
because they are realtors. They on the phone, they're here or there. And then of course they get a break as far as like if they do see me, they're chatting it up. I'm like, okay, cool. I get to know their families. I get to know their kids' names, you know, all that all that kind of stuff. So I feel like I think that's what it is. I know it's the quality of work that I've developed too, and also the amount of time that I kind of could go in a house without having to spend so much time. Because I'm not thinking anymore.
In and out.
Yeah, in and out. And I think that's what they like, especially when it comes to certain clients that they have. They know that they can't be or a photographer can't be in there for like more than 2 hours because either it's an elderly person and they're sick or they're in a rush and they don't trust whomever or whatever. So they know that I could just go in and out, and that's kind of what they want. But besides them, like I said, there are other realtors that are now allowing the new photographers to go in and now doing the listings for them, which I feel like it's for their benefit too, for the company to grow. It's one of those things that they're no longer having to wait for anybody. They could call us and more than likely are going to be more available if we have more people, rather than them waiting a week, because that's what they were waiting. They were waiting a week when I was doing it by myself, and they were literally waiting a week because I was doing 3-4 houses a day, and they would say, please put me in somewhere. I started at 7 a.m. When I did it myself. 7 a.m. I would go to a listing. I then had to understand that certain lock boxes don't open until 8 a.m. because they're electronical. So those are the things that I learned through experience because I wanted to get stuff done because I knew I had 4 houses by myself. If it were up to me at that time, I would have gone to the house at 6 a.m. You know, but of course I didn't want to wake up 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. to get to a listing. So I would make it a point where if I could start early, I would start early so that I could then have time in between to edit the photos or video and then go to the next listing and then get that done. Once again, get the photos done in wherever I can and then go to the next listing and so on and so forth. I would go to sleep at 1, 2 p.m., do the same thing, repetition. It's just one of those things that I am grateful for. Would I go back and do it again? I don't know, because it was kind of hard. Like I could look back on it. I'm like, I don't know how I did it. Like I don't know how I even had the energy to even wanting to continue.
I know that's true, right? You were doing like 4 or 5 listings a day, every day.
Yeah, it got crazy. It got crazy, and then I thought the slow season was December, and December came my first year. And I'm like, oh, thank God it's December, Christmas. Nope.
Still got houses to sell.
Yeah, exactly. So I kind of learned how to do everything quickly in a system where I knew I could get it done on a timely manner where I could just deliver the following day. And like I said, it's just a process of just experience, you know, and I am grateful now that the team is growing. And now with this podcast, we are trying to do other avenues. Like I said, we are going to bring in, hopefully Israel or Jordan will come in as a guest. And I don't want it to be where I'm going to be on the podcast all the time. I want it to be where you guys are the host, and maybe it's you and Jordan or you and Israel or you all 3 or all 4 of us, or just you and a realtor that maybe would want to talk to the editor or the person that's sending the invoices, you know.
Who is that girl?
Right. That way that we could actually start establishing the voices and actually the faces of the team. Because right now I am the one that's recognized as far as like the one that is InView Media. I never wanted this company just to be my company. I wanted to be developed through the team and grow with the team so that we could all live a better life, as essentially just doing what we love doing, which is photography, videography. Hopefully other avenues do come along where we could then start marketing into the more of the business section, like commercials and stuff. But I've always said, develop a foundation, a standards of quality, and then we could then navigate other
And I think that's something that we've learned as the company has grown. Like, because in the beginning we were kind of trying to do all of that at once, but it was like it was too hard to try to focus on 3-4 different types of videography, photography, and so yeah, we were just like, okay, let's focus on the real estate. Let's get this like perfected. Let's get our quality out there. Let's, have people recognize us for that. And then once we have that set and it's good and it's going, now we can expand into other things. And we feel comfortable going into those, knowing that the agents trust us and they see the quality of work that they're getting and it's consistent, and they know we're going to go in and we're going to, give them the best photos, and we're not going to, cut corners. We're going to do everything that we can to give them the best quality of work. And now that we're getting that in a place where it's, you're starting to feel comfortable to pull back and start focusing on other things. It's really exciting because I'm like, there's more that we can do and there's more that we can get into.
Yeah, the possibilities are just technically endless as far as like in the creative world, we could technically do whatever we want as far as like, as long as the income comes in, as long as the standards stay within the standards that I want to keep growing in, the standard of growth, I'll always be happy. I'm happy that you came into the team. I'm happy that you stayed in the team. I'm happy that all the time that was spent with you, me teaching you while I was doing all these listings by myself, because when you came in, there was no other photographer or videographer. I think Clinton came in maybe a month after. And I'm,
oh, really? I thought he was already.
No, it was,
Maybe. Okay.
Yeah, it was me.
Because I remember we had like a team meeting.
Yeah, it was
several months.
Yeah, it was me first alone, and then it was another editor that wanted to edit, and then there was another person that wanted to shoot, and then from there we got Clinton. Clinton was already established as far as like when it came to the real estate photography, so it was easier for him to just kind of come into the team and then just literally just do what he was already doing. Shout out to Clinton. Yeah, and then you came in within that realm of group, and certain people it just didn't work out. As far as like what I was noticing, it just didn't work out. And then the same amount of attention that I put into them, I put into you, which from your experience, I'm pretty sure it was just like consistent. Like, okay, I'm gonna get home around 10 p.m. or 9 p.m. and then you were literally at my house editing.
Yeah.
Whatever I had wanted you to edit while I was editing, in front of you.
Yeah. And for a while there, it was like, okay, let's start you with the video editing because that's what we need. But if you want to get into the photography, the videography side of it, like, I'll teach you that too. And there's a while where I was kind of learning that and doing the photo editing too. And then, things just got kind of like really busy. And then then I'd hear you and Clinton talk about like, it's so hot and sweaty. And like, maybe I don't want to do the videography for this. Like, I'll stay with the editing. But it ended up kind of working out because we did start getting so busy where I was getting 3, 4, 5 houses to edit every day. And so I'd be like, and you guys, the summertime, you guys were going from listing to listing to listing to listing. So you guys wouldn't get home until like
late.
9, 10 o'clock at night, and then you'd have to upload all this stuff. And you had 2 videos, like 2 houses of footage to upload. Clinton had like 3 to upload, so you guys were uploading it, and then I'd get a text like simultaneously from both of you, all my stuff's uploaded, we got 1 more house to upload. And so it's like it's like 1 a.m, I'm downloading everything, I'm editing a house. 4 a.m. Okay, I can sleep for like an hour. Then I'd wake up and like edit the rest so we can have everything out, like by the next day or like the morning. And sometimes I'm like, are they okay if they get it by like 3 o'clock? Like even though it's not like that much longer, but I think at that time we were just so like concerned about being consistent.
Yeah, the turnaround.
Yeah, and not wanting to, like we were all just working so hard to like do the best that we could. And I don't think any of us were sleeping much.
No, it got hard. I'm not going to lie. The summer, I'm going to say last year when COVID was still kind of like it was still kind of like the restrictions and all that stuff. It was really hard for us as far as like how we were kind of doing things because we didn't know it was going to get that busy. So we didn't understand that we needed more help. And then even when we brought in help, it wasn't that much of a help because I was still doing so many of the listings. I couldn't put the time that I'm putting into these guys now, as far as like when we understood that December came, January, it was busy, but it wasn't as busy. So I could now bring them into a house, take my time, not rush to the next listing. But when it came to that, it was a little bit different because we were almost having to jump ship right away with that person. Understandably, it wasn't their fault and it wasn't my fault, but it was now development of experience where like maybe we shouldn't do it this way anymore because the consistency wasn't really what we wanted, or the development as far as like what I could have developed with that person. I couldn't do it because of the amount of listings that we had and the time that needed to get done within the literally just so many listings a day, 7 days a week, nonstop.
Every single day,
Every single day. And nobody took days off. If you were sick, go to work. If your stomach hurt, oh well, there's a bathroom in that house, If you're sunburned, oh whatever, sunblock.
Oh man, there's some funny stories though from that, like just like Clinton, like his stories. He just gets so hot, and I'd be like, I'd be at home and it'd be like nice, but like I'd walk outside and be like, oh my god, like how are they doing this? Every day, over and over.
It got pretty bad last year, but now, like I said, now we've allowed ourselves to actually analyze what we did. And
I like helped with the Matterport a few times. I'd be like, I hate this. Like, I don't want to be here. Like,
and you're just standing there too.
And I'm just with the Matterport, like just taking it from place to place.
Yeah. It's just one of those things that we just kind of have to grow from. Like it is what it is. I grew up from the position where what I did in the past was harder than what I'm doing now. So the idea of what hard work was already instilled in me, as far as like, okay, I'm out in the sun, but I'm holding a camera. I'm not holding a shovel. That kind of thing. I would rather hold a camera rather than holding a shovel. Yeah. So my idea was this is a lot easier to do than what I could be doing for a living because of the situation that I'm in, as far as like me coming in from another country, basically just having the DREAM Act, not having a social security number until I was 24, not being able to work at a minimum wage job. So I've had to develop certain traits for myself so I could then literally just have the basics of what you guys have from the beginning when you guys were born. I couldn't go and apply at McDonald's. I couldn't apply at, Starbucks.
Even if I applied, they didn't hire me. Like, I just... like
when I didn't even have that opportunity even to apply, they were like, no, you're never going to get out of here. they sensed it. From that development, as far as like the work ethic, it came from just appreciation of being in that position of now saying, hey, I'm getting paid. Yeah, it's hot. It's 116, it's 112. I'm in this heat. I would go home and just lay on my carpet because I was drained through the heat. That's how hot it would get. But once again, it was just appreciation from where I'm coming from. Like it could be worse.
Yeah, I agree. I think like even being, obviously I didn't have that like struggle of not, being born in another country. I was born here. But like even, I'm from a big family. My family's pretty, didn't grow up with a lot of money. And so I feel like I've always had to work really hard for everything that I have. And like going into this, exactly what you're saying, I had that same mindset where it's like, I could be working somewhere else, like a 9-to-5 job in an office doing something I don't really want to do. Or I could be doing this, working my, like getting a few hours of sleep a night, but it's something that I really want to do and I love and I enjoy doing it and I'm building something and that's worth it to me. And so I think for like what you're saying, like I had that same mentality where I was like, I see the opportunity here and I want to grow with this and I want to like put as much effort and time into it as I can because it's something that I enjoy doing. And how many people get that opportunity to like really do something that they love to do. Yeah,
and then of course, just seeing the company grow, that's kind of the thing that I've had to step back sometimes and literally just appreciate the things that we have now developed through the time span that we've gone through because of the time that last year, how busy I got, I didn't really notice, and I didn't get to just sit down and just have time off and say, man, I really appreciate what I have, because just a consistency amount of work. But now that it is kind of like developing into a functional system, I'm now sitting back, I'm like, wow, like I have a studio space, you know, the things that I bought last year, I didn't see their value until this year, because I didn't see it for what it was. I just saw it as a thing, an object that we needed. But now I'm like, wow, I bought that. I didn't even think about how much I cost. You know, it was just something we needed.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are the small things that I kind of now go back on as far as like appreciation. You know, like I said, I understand the work ethic that goes into the company, but also acknowledging that I could be doing something just as hard, but something that I'm pretty sure that I wouldn't be passionate about or allow myself to actually feel fulfilled as far as like me as a person. And everybody that is now coming into the team, you from the start, I've seen your growth, and the people that are coming in, I'm hoping to see the same amount of growth and just growing as a group. From the beginning, I've always said, as long as I grow, you grow. Now it's going to be as long as the company grows, we all grow, because now we are a company. Now we are established, and I hope it continues.
Me too. Yeah. It's exciting.
Yeah, very exciting. Very excited for this year, and then of course the following years that are coming along.
Ready for summer.
Not really.
See how it goes.
So as far as like the I guess the conclusion of this podcast, I would like to say thank you for everybody that is using us, and or the people that are willing to or heard about us and are thinking about using us. I want to say thank you. Of course, I want to say thank you to the team, you know, the partners, Israel, Jordan, people that we normally don't see behind the scenes that are, you know, helping us out. We do have someone in the studio right now helping us out right now. He is doing it free. Danny D behind the scenes, switching the cameras and everything. Like I said, the community that I've kind of grown, I've actually generally seen people that have grown with me, and I've always attached myself to them, even though I can't be with them as much as I would want them or want them to be around me, because the amount of work that we have. Anytime that I could at least have them in, you know, that atmosphere of what we're doing, I will bring them in. And if I could help them out, I'm more than willing to help them out, because that's kind of what it should be, you know. Development of the community is literally what this company is literally grown after. So thank you so much for everybody that is using us. And once again,
thank you.
Those that are in the company, thank you. And hopefully we are going to continue this podcast, and we will have either Jordan or Israel on the next podcast. And if it's not me in the podcast, I want you guys to start recognizing Ariana is one of the main factors of InView Media. Those that receive emails, those that are getting their invoices. You
probably recognize my name from emails that I send out.
Yeah, it is Ariana Ortega. It is her that you are communicating with. So, like I said, hopefully everybody in the team starts to create their own voice, you know, and then that way now the community, as far as like within the real estate realm, will then recognize them not just as an individual, but literally as InView Media, the way that they see me. So any last words, Ariana?
Yeah, I mean, thank you to you. I mean, thank you to all our clients, you know, everyone who uses us, everyone who has used us and wants to use us, people in the community who support us. Thank you for giving me this opportunity, for taking the time to train people who, you know, haven't had any experience in it. And, it's time, your own time that you're putting into it. So definitely appreciate that. And I think everyone who's on the team can say that.
Thank you.
And yeah, I look forward to more of these.
Yeah, me too. All right, you guys. So for anybody that is wanting to join the team, please contact us. We are still looking for videographers and photographers. Once again, it is an internship. It's non-paid, but we will take our time as far as developing your skills as far as when it comes to the photo or the video. We are bringing a new editor for videography so that he can help you out. So we are technically not looking for editors right now, but hey, if you are interested in if you do see something within the team that we are not seeing, reach out to us. I mean, maybe we could collab in some way and then we'll work at something out. I'm always willing to listen.
Yeah, that'd be amazing.
Yeah, exactly. So reach out, inviewmedia.com or www.inviewmedia.com, right? We just kind of
InView Media, InView-media.com.
There you go. See, she knows all the ins and outs. I don't. Of course, we have Instagram. What is it? Hashtag. I don't know what it is.
Hashtag at InView Media 1.
Is it? I don't know.
I think so.
Isn't it the underscore?
Oh, I think I'm thinking of Facebook.
Okay. So Facebook is
at InView Media 1.
Okay. And we'll write this down in the description, or if not, somewhere within the.
I guess, I don't look at their name.
Yeah, just in case if you guys don't want to use email, go through social media. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, Google us too. You could find us on Google. Mm-hmm. So for those that are wanting to schedule something, just go through our website. Those that are wanting to come into the team or have the opportunity to come into the team, just contact us either IG or Facebook or email. So we will contact you guys. And thank you so much. Goodbye.
Thank you.